Welcome to Under the Gun. I'm David Tuchman, Under the Gun. We are here each and every Wednesday. And, of course, our sponsor, CrushLivePoker.com, the first and only site out there specifically for live poker. If you are working on your live game, you want to work on your live game, check out CrushLivePoker.com. You get 1 month free using the code DTA405. Once again, that's DTA405. That, by the way, was Bloody Motherfucking Asshole by Martha Wainwright. That song, it sings to me. It sings to me. Once again, that's Bloody Motherfucking Asshole by Martha Wainwright. I'll be playing it on the outro as well, because I like it, okay? We're just going to leave it at that. As always is the case, if you are one of the majority and you listen to the show after the fact, come join us on a Wednesday night. You can always call in, which is pretty awesome. Ask a question. I've had a lot of guys call in, which is always fun. The number is, of course, 323-825-5134. It's a good night. It is Wednesday, May 10th. And we got a lot of things going on. We got a Game 7 between Pittsburgh and the Capitals. Currently that game, by the way, if you don't want a spoiler, do not listen. 10, 9, 5, 2, 1. Penguins are up 1-0. About 4 minutes left in the second period. Let's go Penguins. Greg Mueller, FBT, is free-rolling me. Made a bet with him. A small little fun bet, just a few $100, where I had the Rangers and the Penguins to win the series, and he had the Capitals and the Senators to win his series, but it is a must-win both. And either if both win on either side, we pay each other $500. I got slightly the best of it in terms of the odds. Not a big bet, and we're friends, so it was all good. But he's now free rolling me because the Rangers sucked last night and they blew it, and the Ottawa Senators have moved on. So if the Pens lose tonight, I owe Greg $500. If the Pens win, we're even. I noticed Ryan Fee put a bet out there on Twitter, and I jumped on it. But he apparently just told me he's already got the action he was looking for. Kind of disappointing, actually. I'm not going to lie. Okay, so yeah, he's the bet basically was, will Trump be impeached? And I think the current odds right now online are minus 150. If you want to say that he's going to get impeached, it's minus 150. Listen, as you guys know, I am not a Trump fan. It's funny, whenever somebody comes out, because I came out today, and I think with the current news, I came out today, and I'm pretty critical of Trump. And the second you're critical of Trump, people just label you as a liberal. It's not that simple, guys. As I pointed out many times in the show, I have voted Republican many times in my life. I will probably vote Republican many more times in my life. I have also voted Democrat a few times in my life, and I have voted third party. That said, I think that our current president, I have not been shy about this, obviously. I think our current president is a complete fucking buffoon. And I don't care if you're a Republican, you're independent, you're a Democrat. I don't care what you are. I think it should be somewhat concerning. But it's funny, if you come out and criticize somebody, they just go, "You're a fucking libtard." Be like, "Okay, dude, whatever. Fine, I guess we can't have a conversation." My wife is liberal. My dad is very conservative, especially fiscal. Anyway, so we got a couple of Game 7s. We got Pittsburgh Caps. We got Edmonton Oilers. Man, Connor McDavid and that team is they've got some young studs. Them and the Toronto Maple Leafs are just going to dominate this league for the next few years. I mean, I look at the Rangers, and I look at some teams that kind of the window has closed on them, and you're like, ouch, because the Maple Leafs are coming. The Oilers are obviously already here. This is good. My beer of the night is a Ballast Point Grapefruit Sculpin. We've drank it. We've had this before. I didn't have another one in the house, so this is what we're drinking. No beer last week as I played hockey. It was a good night, though. Scored 3 goals last week, which was pretty cool. My old ass still has it. One thing great about ice hockey is you can still play it as you get older. I think there are other sports that can be difficult. I know you can probably play soccer, but obviously if you play football growing up, you're not playing tackle football, in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s. I can play hockey until I'm 70 years old, which is pretty sweet. Josh Thomas, what's up? And Jiao Chan says, yo, let's have a good show. Thanks, man. Says, thanks for the reminder. Now I can turn you off and go watch the game. I understand, dude. Hey, listen, I'm going to be honest. This is a week where I would probably, I appreciate the guys that are watching it live. And as always, you guys can call in 323-825-5134. But this is a week where even if I was a huge fan of myself, I would probably be watching Game 7 of Game 7 hockey. By the way, at 7 p.m., Stones Live Poker is on Twitch. In the first ever live stream of a PLO8 game, and our own Bart Hansen will be taking part on that. I'm gonna give Justin Kuraitis a call, actually, who is the tournament director up at Stones, and he's kind of in charge of Stones Live at all. I want to talk to him. Good friend of mine, good guy, and we'll get into that. Tran says, joke, I don't even like hockey. Dude, how do you not like hockey? Such a great sport. So let's see some other things we're going to go on. I'm going to talk about some tournament poker hands and the advice I got from Brian Rast. I think I've mentioned this in previous podcasts that Rast is coaching me for tournaments, specifically for tournaments. And so I played the 500K tournament at Hustler a couple of weeks ago. And I bought in for day 2, which was $2,700. Didn't get much going and everything, but I played long enough that I had some hands that I wanted to talk to him about. So I sent him the hands. He gave me some feedback. We talked about it, and I will relay that information to you guys. Played 27 holes of golf yesterday. It is the most golf I've played in one day in a really long time. I don't get out to play golf as much as I'd like, but when I do play, generally it's 9 holes or 18 holes. I haven't played 27 holes since I'm a kid. But we played 18 holes and we were speeding through and the course was empty and the guy was like, you want to play another 9? And I kind of, I was feeling it, like holes like 15 through 18. I was actually feeling pretty good. So I was like, yeah, sure. So we played another 9 holes and I'm not a great golfer. I'm pretty much a bogey golfer, but the last 9 holes, 19 through 27, I was like +4, which is like off the charts for me. Okay. Josh Thomas says, huge Ducks fan and scared for tonight's game. Game 7s have been bad for the Ducks the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, the Ducks have some issues. I mean, their goaltending has let them down, and I think they're having a lot of problems with the Edmonton Oilers' speed. We'll see how it plays out. I still think Getzlaf is probably the best player on the ice right now. That's obviously changing very quickly as McDavid is just so electric. But I think when it comes down to like playoff hockey and gritty hockey, I'd probably rather have Getzlaf today. And today might be the last day I'd rather have him over McDavid. But McDavid is just an absolute, and just a talent. He's really, really good. And that's a tough team. And he's not alone. I mean, they scored 7 goals the other night, and he didn't get a point, which speaks volumes for the team. Shout out. So I played a home game. I think I mentioned this, and I just want to do a shout out to a guy who listens to the podcast occasionally. He is an editor, an Oscar nominated editor, in fact, named Tom McCardle. Played poker with him. It was a really fun home game. We played really, really low stakes. It was an old high school friend of mine who invited me to the game, and he's also an editor. He's been an editor for Grey's Anatomy, among many other shows. Anyway, the guy was like, hey, yeah, a couple of the guys, they listen to your podcast. They're fans of yours. Do you want to come play? And I was like, yeah, sure, for fun. Why not? So I went and played with these guys, and I had a great time. So just a shout out to Tom McCardle, if you are listening. What's up, my man? I had a really good time playing with you. Let's do that again for sure. I got a Twitter question I want to answer. By the way, you guys can ask questions in any manner. Send me an email. There's so many different ways to ask questions. In fact, I got an emailed question this week that I'm going to respond to. And I also got a Twitter question. So I'm going to get to both of them right here and see where we're at. So Garrett Allen from Arizona, says Garrett and AZ, tweeted in, said, hey, Tuck, do you take Twitter questions for tonight's podcast? I said, of course. He said, when you miss the big blind, do you think it's more positive EV to buy the button or post behind? Now, generally speaking, we are losing money when we put money in blind. That goes without saying, I would hope. From a pure mathematical standpoint, straddling is negative EV. Now, there are many reasons to straddle that could be optimal for your image and pay off in the long run. But you've got to realize that you're losing money in the small blind and the big blind, and that's okay. What you really want to do is just figure out a way to lose the least amount of money in the small blind and big blind, right? So the question really is, let's say in a 9-handed game, you miss the big blind. Should you, and it's not really not that complicated a question, but let's get into it anyway, because it happens all the time. Why not? Anyway, hang on, you guys don't need to see that anymore. You can see my ugly mug. By the way, this is the Ballast Point Grapefruit Sculpin. Some of the Ballast Points, I do like Ballast Point, but I think they've gotten a little bit pricey and a little bit ahead of themselves. But this is one of my favorite ones, the Grapefruit Sculpin. It's just very drinkable, and the grapefruit taste is so subtle. It's not sweet at all. It's a nice drink. Nice beer. Anyway, let's get to this question. So, from a pure math standpoint, if you post behind, right, you will get, instead of posting in the big blind and the small blind and the button, until it is the next blind, you will get 6 hands in, right? Because you're missing, obviously, big blind, small blind, button. But if you miss the big blind, should you post where you get 8 hands in? So the question really is, do you want, and it's going to come to a very simple conclusion, you're still paying the same small blind, big blind. You're either paying it to get 6 hands or you're paying it to get 8 hands. Now, one of those hands is in terrible position if you get the 8 hands because you're playing it at the small blind, but 7 of them are out of the blinds, 2 of which would be button and cut off, and then 3 obviously hijack. Or you can post behind and get 6 hands in a full ring game before your next blind and not get the button. So, this is, like I said, there's no dumb questions, guys. You know what? We didn't all come out of our mother's vagina knowing how to play poker. And sometimes the most basic question, you don't really think about it until you do. And then when you think about it, you go, oh, that's obvious. Do we want 8 hands or 6 hands for that same small blind, big blind cost? I don't care if you're playing 1-2, 2-3, 2-5, whatever it is. And then do we want, the real thing is, I think psychologically, a lot of times we're like, oh, I'd rather come in behind because I get to avoid the small blind. And that way, when I'm posting dead, my dead post is in position. I think there's very little merit to that because at the end of the day, the 2 extra hands you're getting, and the fact that one of them is on the button, strongly outweighs having the 5 or 10 or whatever the blind is in there dead from in the cutoff seat. So I hope that answers your question, Garrett Allen. I believe it is much better to buy the button. I've got another question in here, and I'm gonna have to find it because a guy asked me for it and put it out there, and then we'll go through some tournament notes as well. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We are Under the Gun. We are here each and every Wednesday night, approximately 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You can call in using the number 323-825-5134. I want to thank our sponsor, CrushLivePoker.com, the first and only site out there specifically for live poker. And you can get 1 month free over there using the code DTA405. Let me get Justin Kuraitis on the line, and we'll see what my man has to say. Justin Kuraitis, of course, as I mentioned, is the tournament director up at Stones. If you haven't been up that way, it's a really nice casino and worth the trip. Especially if you live in California. Michael C. Poker has a question that I'll answer in a second. hopefully Justin. I'm calling Justin about 10 minutes early, but I figured why not. This is your cue to pick the phone up, Justin. Ringing.
Hi, you've reached Justin's cell phone. Sorry I couldn't answer right now. If you need to get a hold of me, please hang up and send a text message. Voicemails are only checked on this phone once a week. Text message is the best way to get a hold of me. Thanks for calling.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording...
Okay, well, we'll call him back in 10 minutes. Hopefully they'll get back on there. We do have, like I said, I have the tournament poker hands to go over, and I will in a second. Maybe that's him. Hello?
What's up, big homie?
Who is this?
What's going on, man? Fan of the show.
Huh?
I'm a fan of the show. What's going on?
How's it going? Who is this?
This is Frankie from New York.
Hey, Frankie from New York. How are you? Where are you from?
From Long Island, New York.
What part?
Suffolk County.
Okay, cool. No, I
Like
mean, my sister lives in Plainview. That's why I ask.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm a
Dix
Long
Hills, you
Island
said?
boy.
Long Island boy. I like it,
Yes.
man. How are you? How are you,
Hills.
Frankie? What's going on? You are under the gun. What can I help you with?
How do you feel about all these players and stuff? About a lot of them are taking Adderall and shit. How do you feel about that? I think it's a terrible thing.
Is this a serious question, or are you just fucking around?
I'm dead serious.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not aware of it or not. Do I have an opinion of it? I don't really give a fuck.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to do it. I think it's stupid. I mean, it's funny when I first started playing poker in a casino.
Okay.
I noticed that I was playing a lot better when I was drinking beer. Just because,
Really?
Yeah, well, there was that kind of the old saying of, that dude, if give him 2 or 3 beers, he's the best poker player in the world. On 6 or 7, he starts getting really, really bad. Just for a lot of people, a couple of drinks loosens them up and gives them a little bit of courage.
No, I mean, I used to take it to play, and I played a lot better taking it because it's a grind. It's a boring game. But
right.
I started taking it way too much. I had to stop. I stopped playing and everything.
Well, that's my point. Is basically I quickly realized that if I was going to play poker, more than once a week, I was going to have to figure out how to play well without drinking.
Right.
Either that, or I was going to become an
Without
alcoholic,
drinking.
or as you pointed out, or an addict.
Right.
So I mean, I think anytime you're reliant on something else to make your
Right.
game, it's pretty dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you play? What's your main thing? Cash game or a tournament?
Cash game.
Cash game. Well, and what stakes you play? Like 5-10?
Yeah, 5-5, 5-10. I mean, I played as high as.
And where are you? You're in Las Vegas or something like that?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Okay.
I like this. I feel like I'm being interviewed. This is good, Frankie. What do you do, by the way?
This is good stuff. I'm actually in the. I signed up for the Coast Guard. I'm in the Coast Guard actually.
Are you? That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, man. It's all right. Other than that, I used to play all the time, man. I used to
You don't play anymore?
nonstop. Cash game, tournaments, all that shit.
You don't play anymore?
I play like once in a blue moon. Probably in the last 4 years, I probably played 3 or 4 times. I used to play nonstop though.
Okay, fair enough, man.
You're from New York. You're from New York originally?
Yeah, I'm from Queens.
Yeah, so I used to play in all underground New York games, stuff like that.
But no time to play anymore?
No, I still could. I don't know, man. I got tired of it, man. I follow these channels on YouTube, like your channel, that guy Doug Polk or whatever.
Yeah, he's
I follow a couple
hack.
guys around.
Total hack, man. I'm fucking.
Total what?
I said he's a total hack, but I'm just fucking with you.
Oh.
So do you play tournaments or no?
Yes, I used to all the time. I'm a good tournament player.
Okay.
I play like a low ball strategy. When I used to play, take jabs and stuff. I didn't play. I play pretty well. I do it.
Okay.
Me and my friend were actually ranked on Party Poker for a little bit, like in the top 10 or whatever.
Right. It's like pre Black Friday days.
Yeah, way before that. This is
Right.
like 2003 or something like that, 2004.
The game hasn't changed at all.
So,
I mean, if you could beat it in 2003, you could beat it now.
well, I stopped playing probably 2011. I probably stopped playing.
Right.
But I bet you the players got a lot better, though. That's if I had to guess.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic. Yeah, the game has changed a lot. Game is much different. I mean, I think the vast majority of people today probably bemoan. They look about it. They think about it. They're like, man, if I knew what I knew now, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the money I could have made.
Right. I thought I was playing on a high level at that time. Like I used to play. You know, a guy I used to play with, Will the Thrill. He was ranked in.
Yeah, Will.
Did you hear of him?
Will's awesome. I've had him in the commentary room many times. He's a fun guy.
Yes, Yeah, I played with him a bunch of times, like on underground cash games and stuff, and tournaments and all that stuff. But I used to play right up there with those guys.
That's pretty awesome, man. Hey, do you have a good Coast Guard story for us?
Yes, I almost drowned during the training.
You almost drowned? How'd you almost drown?
Other than that, no, nothing crazy, man. No.
There's no like you. There's no like you went to go rescue a ship, and you went out there, and there's like 6 women completely naked having sex together or something like that.
Yeah, actually, that did happen, and then I woke up.
Yeah, there you go. That happens to me too.
All right, man. I don't want to hold you up. I'm just trying to play it back, man, on your podcast. See if I can hear myself.
I appreciate it. Later, buddy. Take it easy, man.
All right, peace, homie.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought that was gonna be a complete troll, but no. Just Frankie from Long Island, who used to crush the game back in 2003. Frankie, the game has changed, just a little bit. But hey, who knows? Let's try Kuraitis back one more time and see where that goes. So one thing great about this podcast is you can just forward it, you rewind it. I go as long as I want to go. Let's see who else is in the thing here. So Michael C. Poker says, why is the river always bad and sometimes lucky? My straight loses to a boat. Yeah, bad beats happen, man. I mean, I know obviously you're fucking around, but I mean, a lot of what I deal with when I'm talking to my students is just trying to focus on the decision-making process and not focus on the results. Easier said than done.
You've reached Justin's cell phone.
But that's really
Sorry,
what it is.
I couldn't answer right now.
What it really is just focusing on decision-making process. Once again, guys, at 7 p.m., we are going to get Stone's Live Poker is starting up on Twitch, and you guys can watch Bart play PLO 8. And of course, this show is recorded. You can listen for free or watch. You can watch for free on YouTube. You can listen for free on iTunes, crushlivepoker.com, or anyway. Josh Thomas says, that's for sure, man. I regret missing the 2002 to 2007 years. Yeah, I got into poker. I mean, I played poker my entire life, but I really started getting into it in like 2001 is when I really, actually even 2001, right around there is when I really started playing a lot. And I was playing limit poker, limit hold'em mostly, some stud and stud 8 a little bit as well. It wasn't until probably 2005 that I got into no limit hold'em, and that was basically because of Live at the Bike. Bart and I were doing commentary for it, and I was playing limit hold'em, and I'm watching it. I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot. The funny thing is, I kind of went over to no limit before Bart did. And then I told Bart, I was like, dude, you got to stop playing limit. It's a gold mine over here. And I was making in a month playing no limit what I was making in a year of limit. And I was beating the game in limit. Not by a ton, but I was beating the game for, an okay amount. I was playing like 20-40 or 30-60. I'd play as high as 81-60 limit. And it was just no limit was just, people were just giving money away. I mean, there were hands where, if a guy had an ace on like ace, deuce, deuce board, you had a deuce, you got it all. That's it. You got it all. Nobazan says, hey, Tuck, when I make a World Series of Poker final table this year, can I come into the booth? Well, I hope not, because you'll be at the table, right? I'm confused. But hey, come by and say hi for sure, please. No question. World Series, of course, starting in just 20 days. I will be there. Pretty excited about that. 1 week, though, I am flying. Actually, next Thursday, I am flying out to Barcelona. Or is it next Wednesday? No, I think it's next Thursday. I'm flying out to Barcelona. I'll be there for a week as well. So all sorts of craziness happening. Very, very short. Let's see. I'm going to get into. I'm going to try Kuraitis one more time and see if this man calls up or not. If he answers his phone. Justin.
Hello, hello.
Oh, you pick your phone up. Wow. I feel so
I
honored.
have my ringer off, man.
I feel so honored. So honored.
You should feel honored.
The sexiest tournament director. I was going to call you a pornament.
I like that. I like that a lot.
It's much better. The sexiest tournament director in the world, Justin Kuraitis. How are you, my man?
Oh, geez, are we on right now?
You are under the gun.
Oh, this is being recorded, so I got to be careful what I say.
I suppose. I'm never careful with what I say. Why would you be careful now?
Awesome. Well, because now there's evidence.
Okay, fair enough. Evidence of anything in particular?
Anything that we say.
Right. Yeah.
So what's going on? What's going on tonight? You have a topic, or what's the deal there?
It's just me bullshitting for a little bit, and I'm going to lead right into your show. I know at 7 p.m.
Oh, great.
You guys are starting Stones Live Poker. You guys are awesome. I love what you guys do up there.
Thank you, David.
And I know my boy Bart is playing. You guys are having the first live stream ever of PLO8, right?
It is. It's a 5-5 PLO8 tonight, and we are ready for the dumpster fire to begin any moment now.
Wait, so how do you have the graphics?
Well staffed and prepared.
Do you have graphics for 4 cards with split pot and everything with like percentages or no?
Yeah, unfortunately, we do not have capabilities yet to do the split pot. We are working with our developer to get that, but we didn't want to make the players or the viewers wait for this game. They've been really excited about having this game come to Stones and to Stones Live for a long time. So we said, you know what, we're going to try and just pull this off manually. I got extra guys on to update chip counts. Unfortunately, with the graphics, you are only going to see the highs displayed. But we have the PLO expert commentator, Jake Rosensteel, in the booth tonight, and he is just exceptional at walking the viewers through PLO action. So I think it's going to be a pretty fun stream.
I think it would be better. Why don't you just get get the Angry Pollock, get Veronica in there, get somebody who knows nothing about PLO8 just to drink. And just be like, I don't know.
I'm glad you said that because she is in there tonight with Jake as well, and she was reading a book on PLO terms earlier, so at least she will sound like she knows what she's talking about tonight.
Well, that's the important thing. Listen, that's been my career, okay? If you just fake it until you make it, right?
I love it. I think it's great. I caught a little bit of your podcast last week where Sean McCormick called in. Really excited too. We're having him on Stones Live next week for 2 shows. Monday doing some commentary, and then he's going to play on Veronica and Friends next Wednesday.
Yeah, I was so desperate because like when Bart was saying he was going up there, and Scott Ball was going to be there, and Sean McCormick was going to be there. I was trying to figure out like when I could come. And I talked to my 14-month pregnant wife about it, and she told me I could go, but I would be going with one less testicle.
I mean, that's a close call, and I understand, how attached people are to their testicles. I get it,
right?
So I see why you made the decision you make, but it's kind of a toss-up, don't you think?
It is. I mean, especially if I went and I only had one testicle, would you comp me food for the weekend? Or at least the night?
Well, preferably it was something that I wouldn't even have to know about. So yeah, definitely comp you food.
Wow. Okay, I'll have to think about this because it might be because the food at Stones Live is legit really, really good.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I actually just finished up eating a plate of the mahi tacos, and I'm a very happy guy right now.
Right. Oh, and by the way, if you ever do make a trip up there, just tell Justin that I sent you and have him buy you a beer. I will pay for it, Justin. You just send me a bill.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought you were going to say, David Tuchman sent me, and then I charged them double.
Yeah, there you go. Even better. That's even better. Or you can hit or you can talk to the I guess it's the general manager art and get his private wine stash. That is also really, really good.
I'm looking at it as we speak, actually.
Oh, see, I promise you, I will be up there before the end of the summer. Okay.
Actually, so I don't know if I should say this in front of all of your listeners,
right?
But
it's just my mom.
You know what?
It's only my mom.
We're gonna live on the edge. I have been planning on reaching out to you. I'm trying to set up my guest commentary lineup for the Fall Classic here, and I've got pretty strong maybes from Jonathan Little. And I've got a mid-range maybe from Jamie Staples. So and I have Andrew Nemi. You know the vlogger. He's coming out to play in a game in a couple months, and I was going to hit him up to join. I was thinking you'd be perfect for the mix. Like, these guys aren't set in stone yet. I'm working hard to get them here. But I think that you would fit in really good with that.
This is late September.
Commentators to come out for the Fall Classic.
This is like mid-late September, right?
This is going to be the last week of September, rolling into the first week of October. It's, I believe, September 29th to October 8th.
I can do it early.
We'll make it happen.
Book me. Honestly, book me early, and I'm there right now.
Okay.
Done. I will commit right now to one of the early weeks. I've got a wedding. I've got one of my wife's best friends' wedding in Massachusetts, October 7th. So it's got to be.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen for sure. That the 7th, towards the end, I was trying to for the main event have Jamie Staples be that guy.
Yeah,
so
you can get somebody bigger than me for that. Yeah, exactly. So use me just for one of the crappy preliminary events.
Okay, you got it. Actually, we're totally refining the lineup for the Fall Classic. And there's going to be no crappy events. So no matter where we put you, you're going to be pretty stoked.
Right. And by the way, are the cash games running that week as well, or no?
Oh, yeah, always. The only time it gets a little tight is on those Saturday morning flights. You'll be in a card room we're restricted to 17 tables. Okay. So those Saturday morning flights that get very big fields, we do convert the whole room, and we don't have cash games for maybe 4 to 6 hours. And then as the tournament tables break, we start them back up. By Saturday night, the games here are so insane. I mean, you've been here.
Yeah.
You see how the games get during the Classic.
Listen, I've been selling Sacramento to my wife for the last year, trying to figure out.
Not going for it.
You know what? It's still a hit or miss, but we're working. Okay, I've got to just massage it in there. Okay, let's do this. And this might be the first ever live booking on a podcast, okay? You are a trendsetter, history maker, okay? First PLO8 stream tonight and first ever live booking. I will come up, do commentary one, but if you can back it up with, and I will play in a game either the night before or the night of on Stones Live.
Well, I don't see any reason how we can't make that happen. And off the top of my head, this is not set in stone, no pun intended. But off the top of my head, I think that October 1st is a Sunday, and that's probably going to be the perfect slot for you. Then you could play Saturday and commentate Sunday.
Done. I've already put it in my calendar.
It's booked. Okay, I love it.
It's booked.
Don't plan anything else this time. No ski trips, no sudden ski trips, to the Andes or anything, okay?
No, listen, I'm going away with my wife and my kid the following week. I can definitely go away the weekend before. It's actually perfect timing.
Okay.
It's the perfect timing.
Well,
I'm there.
It's still far away. I mean, hopefully we could get you here in the future. Bart's been coming up like every month. Like, what gives, man?
Bart's, I didn't want to say anything, but I think Bart has a crush on Justin Kelly.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, who doesn't?
Yeah, you know what? I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. Who doesn't? He doesn't want to say it. I mean, Bart's got a new girlfriend and everything, but I think that's just for show. I think he's got a crush on Justin Kelly. I'm just going to put it out there. Okay.
I mean, I recall last time you were in the booth with Justin Kelly and you were crawling into his lap.
It's magical. It is magical. Every time with Justin is like the first time. Hey, question for you. So you've got, I mean, I first of all, I got to give you a lot of credit. Stones Live is, relatively new, But you guys have really done a great job, whether it's Norman Shad or Kevin Martin or Alon McCarron, of course, or David Tuchman. No, but you really you reach out and you get some big names in there to do commentary and play on the show. And what is has the ownership of Stones been like 100% on board with all this? They love what you do?
Oh, totally. I say this all the time, but I have never before in my life in any industry, but especially since I've been in the casino industry about 10 years now, worked for a management team that was so supportive and so backing of any idea. And their philosophy from the get-go, from the day I started this company, they would tell us, and you never know to believe this stuff when you're starting a new company. They're telling you what they want, what their ideas are. They want us to shoot big. They said they wanted us to shoot for the stars, and if we crashed and burned, if we failed, that no one was going to be judged, no one was going to be looked down on, that you pick yourself back up and you keep shooting for the stars. And the management actually pushes all of our creative endeavors here to go bigger than you would even think of going. And I think with Stones Live, once I saw that backing was really there, that support was really there and how strong it is, I'm just like, look, the sky's the limit. So why wouldn't I reach out to the biggest names? The worst thing they can do is say no. But, even when they say no, it's not like they're going to laugh in your face or anything. Well, at least not yet.
Yeah, I mean, other
make
people,
it. Maybe another time. But something really cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to finish my thought.
Please.
Something really cool that has happened, and it really blew my mind when it was first happening. But we were reaching out to these people. Reach out to like Jason Somerville or Chris Moneymaker and say, hey, we got this show Stones Live, and you just assume that they never heard anything about it. So you send them some clips, you sell them on like how cool we are, and they just be like, stop you mid-sentence to be like, no. I totally know your show. I watch you guys. It's awesome. You guys have some great content. You do a really great job. And whether they can come out or no is a matter of scheduling, but the majority of the time, these guys, like, they already know about us, which was like blew my mind. I was like, man, we've been here for a year and already like these top names in poker. They're like, yeah, of course we know who you guys are. So that it was just a really cool thing to experience.
Right. And by the way, I mean, I was trying to cut off just to make fun of you, but they'll never laugh. They'll never laugh in your face because they're laughing, behind closed doors at you. But
and that's fair. That's fair because that saves my ego anyways. I don't care what they do when I can't see them.
Hey, just before I let you go, because I know you've got a game to run. First off, guys, you can follow Justin Kuraitis, by the way, at JFKStonesTD. I've got his Twitter thing up there, and I've got a picture of you. I'm assuming this is Halloween, or is this just a random Thursday night?
No, it was our Halloween show. It was with your favorite commentator, Justin Kelly. I was dressed as a mad scientist covered in blood, and he was Deadpool, and I liked the picture, so I just left it up.
Yeah, no, it's a good picture. And apparently you've got your 6-shooter, $100,000 guaranteed tournament coming up in like 2 days.
David, we are so excited for this tournament. It's 6 flights for $200 buy-in. Great structure with 30-minute levels on day 1, 40 on day 2. But the best thing about this tournament, which we'll be running this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday morning and night, is if you play multiple flights and you qualify in multiple flights, all of your qualifying chip stacks are going to be added together when you start day 2.
Oh, wait, wow, okay. So if you qualify like 3 or 4 times, you could literally have like 6x the average.
Easily, you could. So it doesn't matter, people that qualify in the early days, even if they have a giant stack, they're going to maybe want to try and fire 1 or 2 more bullets because people that might
even
get
more so
medium stacks, well, that's why we called it the 6-shooter. But, for some players, it probably needs to be the AK-47 shooter. I don't know.
Right, of course.
I think there's going to be a lot of bullets fired. We will be streaming the final table of that on Sunday the 21st sometime in the evening. So if people want to know a start time, we usually announce final table start times a couple hours in advance. on our Twitter feed at Stones Live Poker.
Justin, by the way, is a avid chess player. Actually, has a chess tattoo on his leg. He and I have battled in chess, and lately you've gotten the best of me. But I'm gonna work on my game and get back into it.
You have whooped my ass more than I'd like to admit, though.
Yeah, we were kind of even for a while, but the last couple of times I haven't played in a while and I've been busy. But I'm gonna get back into it, and we'll battle.
Okay.
We'll battle for sure. What got you in? Just before I let you go, what got you into poker? Have you always been a poker player, or was this a job and then it's kind of morphed into more? Because I know you're really passionate about it. You can see it, you can feel it. I think it's probably one of the reasons why you do such a great job, and one of the reasons I'm attracted to Stones and what you guys do up there. But what got you into poker?
It's funny, on the outro question, when you're like, I'm going to let you go because I know you're busy, you ask a question that cannot be answered quickly.
I know. I wasn't planning on it, but I realized I never had you on, and I didn't want to have this, to be honest with you, I wasn't calling you up just for like a 10-minute promo, and I was like, you know what? You're a pretty cool dude. I want our viewers to get a little bit of okay, who the hell are you? And frankly, I don't think I've ever asked you that question. Are you a poker player?
Well,
where did you get, did your grandma teach you how to play poker? What's the story?
Well, I did dabble with my grandma and my family playing poker as a kid, but I was never really super passionate about it as a teenager in my early 20s. My passion was snowboarding, and I lived my life to snowboard. I lived in Denver. I had the 5 Mountain Pass, and it was like if I wasn't at work, I was on the mountain. In 2006, I was in a pretty tragic accident. I was hit head-on by a drunk driver, barely survived. It messed my legs up pretty good. So, I was depressed knowing that my passion snowboarding was taken away from me for my entire life. And I was kind of looking for something to fill that void. And one of the things I started filling my time with was playing poker online on Carbon and on Full Tilt. And it helped me pass the time, and I was like, this game is cool, and I really liked it. So I just started reading books and getting into it and studying strategy. And mostly my passion with poker, which translated well into my career, was with tournaments. So as I started getting a little more skilled and understanding what I was doing, I started seeking out tournaments and making trips to Vegas. And eventually, I was working a job at Microsoft as an engineer, and I got laid off. And it just kind of all came together when I saw an ad in the newspaper that said, learn how to become a poker dealer, go to this school, $500. And I was like, well, I'm jobless at this point. I'm not doing anything. I love this game and I understand it. And it seems like every time I'm at a table, the dealers are having a good time. They seem to enjoy their job. So I gave it a shot. 6 months later, I'm dealing cards in a casino. My boss at Microsoft calls me back, offers me my job back. And I just said, you know what? Really like what I'm doing. So I definitely developed the passion for it, first as a player, but then getting into the industry. And then once I realized it was the culture I wanted to be in, I just made every attempt that I could to educate myself and to really try to integrate into the community, find out what people like, what they want, and the rest was just moving up a step at a time.
Wow.
That's about as quick as I can be with it. I mean, there's a lot more to it, but
I love it, man. Hey, listen, go. I have a lot more to ask you. I'm going to get you back on the show at some point to talk more because
cool.
I really actually want to put you under the gun. Okay. Right now,
let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some tough questions. I'm going to really make it hard for you. But I know you've got a game. Okay. I know you've got to a game to do and run and all that stuff. So I'm going to let you go. Thanks.
Thank you, David. We're going to go live in 10 minutes. I don't want to steal any of your listeners, so tell them when they're done there to go to twitch.tv/StonesLivePoker. We have an amazing game tonight with 2 of my absolute favorite commentators, Veronica Brill and Jake Rosenstiel, and towards the end of the show, your man Bart Hansen's going to be in there in the commentary booth with them too. So it's going to be an awesome show tonight.
It is going to be an awesome show, but Justin, you don't have to lie and say that Veronica's one of your favorites, okay?
She's one of your favorites, isn't she?
She's one of my favorites to drink with.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's what I meant.
No, we all love Veronica. Okay, she's fun, and it was her birthday yesterday.
It was.
Yeah, she turned 60 yesterday. She looks fucking fantastic for 60.
She does look great. She does look great.
I love you, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Thanks for the call, David.
Later, man. Justin Kuraitis, guys. That he's honestly, that kind of came out like a promo show, a promo call. I didn't mean to be that way. They don't pay me anything, but I really genuinely love what they do up there. He's a really good guy. Their poker room is really cool. Games are good. You can always match the biggest stack, which is really great. Because even if you're waiting, let's say you're waiting for a 5-10 or even a 2-5. Sometimes I've waited for a 2-5 or a 5-10, and I could buy in for like $900 in a 1-3 game. So the action's really good there. And the food is fantastic, and their dealers, like honestly, like I feel like I'm doing this like promo bullshit for them, but I'm not getting paid. Fuck, maybe I should get paid. No, but in all fairness, that it is a top-notch poker room, and they do a really good job. So I can do it without any problem. Gautran says, if you're in Massachusetts, come to Twin Rivers. Not going to happen, unfortunately. When I go to Mass, we have so much family back east that it's going to be between family and wedding and more family, and I'm going to have my 4-year-old, and we're going to have our infant with us, that it's just not going to work. So it is going to be strictly a family vacation. But, I mean, that's the one thing with living in LA is when I travel, I don't have to play poker that much, and I very rarely do. Now, I do play poker when I travel without my family. So, like, for example, I'm going to Barcelona to do commentary for 888. Depending on how long my days are, I might get some poker in. Now, I looked at the schedule in a lot of my days for 888, and you can watch this, by the way, on Twitch, so make sure you do. Starting, I think, on, I want to say the 18th or 19th. Anyway, so you can watch this, but I think our days start at like 3 p.m. there, which is like, 10 in the morning, East Coast time, 7 in the morning, West Coast time in the States. But I'll tweet out all the when we start. But in all likelihood, I will probably do some, Barcelona touristy walkabout stuff during the day, and then probably going to be doing commentary all night. So, but hopefully I can play a little bit of poker. And obviously when I'm in Vegas for the World Series, I do that as well. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the tournament questions that I had, because I had some really good ones from the week last week. Once again, I played this $500,000 Hustler tournament. It was a $2,700 buy-in tournament. And after the fact, I wanted to ask Rasty some questions. So this is what I wrote him, basically. And I said, hey, Rast, what's up? Played the last tournament. A little frustrating at times, for sure. We were 10-handed most of the way, and I was a little card dead. I said, well, actually not so much card dead as I was picking up good enough hands to play, but my opponents were really sticky, and I was forced to fold a lot post-flop. This particular tournament, it was very weak field, and it played very much like a 2-3 game, which is pretty phenomenal when you think about it being, that big a tournament. Because a lot of these players qualified in the 250 or 350 buy-in during the week. The field that advanced to day 2 just wasn't very strong. So it was one of those situations where, if we were 8-handed, it would have been a little bit different, but 10-handed, you really need to pick up some hands. And I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, or even last week, where I just kept getting like 8s and 9s, hands that were certainly good enough to play, but if I raised or called a raise or 3-bet, I was getting, 3 or 4 callers. And it's just, when you have 9s and you're seeing the flop 4 ways, it's tough to take that down without, flopping something really good. A lot of times the flop would just come out, Queen 10-4 or, King 7-3, and then somebody would have a king. So it became a little bit more difficult. Anyway, so there's one play early on where, and I'll go through each spot because I thought it was interesting. So early on, there was an all-in shove for like 2.5x. And at this point, the blinds are 2,500, 5,000. So he shoved for about 13,000. It folds to me after he shoves in early position, it folds to me in the cutoff, and I have aces. Now, I think there's 2 ways to play this hand, obviously. Obviously, you're never folding. You're either calling, trying to trap one of the players behind you, or you are 3-betting to ISO. And I didn't want to 3-bet to ISO at this particular point of the tournament because I thought it might look just a little bit too strong. And I kind of wanted one of the blinds to come along for the ride. We were very deep at this point. It was early, and I was in position. And I thought there was a chance, if I called and one of the players in the blinds actually picked up a hand, maybe they would 3-bet, okay? So I just decided to call. Both blinds came along. Flop came out like 10 high. They both checked. I bet the flop, and they both folded. So let's go to, I sent that to Rast, and I'll give you what his feedback was on it. Very simple. Said here, I think the play is fine. You're obviously going to do this with a much weaker hands. Another option in this spot would be to 3-bet smallish to like 5.5 big blinds as a kind of ISO in order to make it difficult for opponents to come in. I think what you do here can matter quite a lot based on exploitive reads as to your opponent's reactions. Anyways, analysis should really stop here at pre-flop. Yeah, obviously. Post-flop is a different thing. But it was really more of a question of like, do you like the play of flatting, or would you rather 3-bet to ISO? And I think depending on what part of the tournament you're in, and depending on who's in the blinds and what their tendencies are, you can decide what you want to do. So that was kind of my thought process. I kind of like flatting with, a lot of my range there. Not a lot. A lot of what I think is ahead of my opponent's range, I'm going to flat a lot of those hands rather than ISO. But there we go. So this is an interesting spot here. So there was a couple of limps. I'm on the button with 6-7 suited. We're about 65 big blinds deep. The first limper, by the way, earlier on, had limp with 6-4 suited. And I know that because he limped with 6-4 suited, flopped a flush, and all in and doubled up. So I didn't give his limp under the gun much credence. The second limp was from the hijack, so I didn't give him much credence either, because I thought he probably would have raised if he had a pretty big hand. Now, I have 6-7 suited. Now, I think you can make an argument for calling, because you get to play the hand in position. But I think if you just flat, in all likelihood, the small blind's going to come along, the big blind's going to come along. And even though you're in position, you just have to flop something to win this hand. But I think if I raise this, well, number one, I'm going to take it down a fair amount of the time. And there's now, with antes in there, there's, 1-2 limp, the big blind, 3.5 plus the big blinds. There's about 4.5 big blinds in there that I can pick up. So I think there's definitely an argument to be made just raising right there and trying to take it down. And, if I get called, I've got a hand that plays really well post-flop and I'm in position. So I decide to raise this. Put some pressure on the limpers. I raised to 4.5x to put max pressure on the limpers. Both blinds fold. The first limper folds, and the hijacker thinks about it for a second and then calls. Okay? I think, what's this guy's range? And I figure he had a bunch of like small to medium pairs. Maybe he had a couple of suited connectors in there. But I didn't think he had many like ace jacks, ace queens, hands like that. I also didn't think he had like 9s plus or 8s, even 8s plus, And since I've got a 6 and a 7, I think maybe he's got, smaller pairs, 8-9 suited, jack 10 suited, hands like that. Flop is deuce, deuce 4. The villain checks. I bet 4.5 times, 4.5x, okay? So now there's about, after I raise and he calls, there's about 9, 10, there's like 11.5x in there, 12x in there. I bet 4.5x, because it's a pretty dry board, deuce, deuce 4 rainbow. Really hard for my opponent to have much. And I feel like this is a pretty good double barrel board, because like even if my opponent has like 3s, 5s, if somehow he does have 6s or 7s, there's gonna be a lot of turn cards that I can barrel him off. And if he does happen to have Jack 10 suited, Queen Jack, 9-8, he's just gonna fold. Okay. And frankly, if I had a hand like Jacks, Queens, Kings, or Aces, I probably would be betting, somewhere in this range, like 35% pot. The villain called. So now there's about 22x in there. The turn's a 7. So the flop is deuce, deuce, 4. I put a c-bet out there. He called. Turn's a 7. So now I pair. And this is probably where I made a mistake. The villain checks. And I'm thinking, I said, now this is what I wrote to Rast. I said I wasn't sure if I should be betting here. I actually figured that I had the best hand a ton here, but I'm just wondering if I should be betting it. Because, as we always say, there's many reasons to bet your hand or not bet your hand. And I kind of, against this particular player, I didn't think he was going to bluff all that often. So I just didn't think there was much value in checking. And I thought, what? Is there a chance this is not actually a great, let's say I had, King, Queen. A 5, a 6, a 7, a 3, a 4. Those are not great barrel cards. And if I had overs, maybe I wouldn't always barrel those. Because I don't know if I'm getting 5s or 6s to fold or 3s to fold with a 7 barrels. So I thought there was a chance. I was like, maybe there's a sneaky chance I can get value here from one of those hands. But the question really is, you've got to ask yourself, can I get 2 streets of value? If my opponent has 3s or 5s, can I get 2 streets? I didn't think I probably could. And the question of allowing my opponent to realize his equity, it's not really that much of a worry. I mean, he's only got, if I'm ahead here, he has 2 outs. That's it. So I probably should have checked it back. And I wrote here, I said, anyway, I bet 11x, a mistake in retrospect. Villain check raises all in. I have him covered. If I call and lose, though, I'm down to about 10 big blinds. And then basically the reason I asked this question to Rast was I said, what's the worst hand you're calling with here? I said, is there any way my opponent is overplaying 9s? And just doesn't, he's kind of I don't know what else to do. I'll just check raise all in. I decided to fold. He told me later that he had quad deuces. Who knows if that's true or not. I didn't see much reason for him to lie after we were off tables, but that's what he said. Who knows? Anyway, let's go to Rast's analysis of this particular spot. He says, think pre-flop is fine. In that spot, I definitely mix in some light hands to raise, and I think this is a great choice. Your sizing is a little small, and while some combos probably should probably be 4.5x, like King, Queen suited, I think 6, 7 suited prefers a larger sizing. I'd go 5 or 5.5x, I think. I think post-flop here, c-bet is okay. Not sure I love your plan, where I said with a plan to double barrel a ton of turns to put max pressure on small pairs, since I don't think small pairs will fold flop ever, and a lot of people will at least peel turn as well on most turns. It's about as good a flop as a small pair can expect, and deuces and 4s obviously flop huge. You're also blocking 6s and 7s. I think I'd check back my hand on the flop if I didn't have a backdoor flush draw also. I don't like your turn play. I think I'd check back and probably call river or bet when checked to on most rivers. Our hand is definitely not good enough to bet turn and river for value, and I think aboard this dry, there is very little protection value. And I think with this combo, I'd prefer check turn and bet river. Now, it's funny, in cash games, generally there's only 2 reasons to bet. We're betting either to get value from worse or to get a better hand to fold. Now, in a tournament, though, you can make an argument to protect your equity in the pot, especially when you don't think your opponent, you're not going to induce a bluff. When you don't think your opponent's going to bluff, why let them realize their equity, right? Continues on, he says, GTO-wise, our hand is a decent combo to call as a 7 block 7's full, and he's probably not bluff shoving 6-6. But in this spot, in this tournament, I think I'd give a little weight to GTO considerations here, and I'd try to rely mostly on whatever deductions and whatever perceptions you might have about your opponent. how capable I thought he was of bluffing and willingness to go for it for a tournament life in a spot like this. And as I mentioned, I didn't think this particular opponent was bluffing very often. One of the reasons I actually bet the turn was because I thought I could fold to a check raise fairly easy. Then he continues on. He says, I think against most villains in small tournaments like these, I probably strongly consider folding anything worse than jacks. I think he could have some 8s or 9s in his range that he plays weird like this and just decides to go with it. So I'd probably talk myself into a call with queens plus, even though I wouldn't like it. I think there are some people in this tournament who might never be bluffing in a spot like this. Yeah, my read on this particular player was that he was never bluffing, but that maybe he was overplaying 9s or 10s or even 8s. Regardless, I couldn't beat any of those hands with my pair of 7s. Let's continue on. More stuff. Let's go. So at this point, I got a little bit... Now, the one thing about the structure of this tournament, like I said, it was 10-handed, and I got myself into a couple of spots where, raise with 9s, that didn't work. Raise with 8s, didn't work. And before I knew it, I found myself down to 21 big blinds. Anyway, under the gun +1 limps, okay? This is a different under the gun +1. I had no real read on this villain as he had just come to the table. And it folds to me in a small blind with 21 big blinds. I have ace-8 of diamonds. I said, what's the play? Should I be calling or raising? Okay? He says pre-flop, I think call is the only play. And if you decide to call, if you decide to do that, if the big blind raises, he's calling that as well, depending on the sizing, obviously. He said, you have 18 big blinds behind. There's only 10 in the pot. He said you can easily call that with ace-8 of diamonds and kind of play the hand post-flop. That was his thought on that one. Let's see what else I got here. Tournament stuff. Once again, this was from the 500K guarantee at Hustler that I played a couple of weeks ago. Okay, here's an interesting spot. I said hero under the gun. I was the hero, obviously. I was under the gun +2 with queens. And I had blinds were 5, 10. I had about 28 big blinds. So I had about 280,000. I decided to raise. I make it like 25K, 2.5x. An old tight dude calls in the small blind. Actually, I made it 26K. So I decided to make my pre-flop sizing just a little bit larger with some of my premiums. I wasn't all that worried about being balanced because I was getting called so often, and everybody was, that I figured if my opponents are going to be stickier, I am going to do my best to charge them for it. And with a premium like queens, I had no problem with that. Anyway, it folds around to the small blind. Old tight dude calls. Flop comes out queen 10-3 with 2 clubs. Now, this is probably one of the best. This is the best hand I had all day by far. So I flopped top set with 2 clubs out there, and I did not have a club. Villain checks. I decided to bet 21,000 into a pot of, I made it 26K. So the pot's about, 69. So I bet like 1/3 pot on a queen 10-3 board. He's obviously going to be calling with flush draws, but I really want to maybe induce something. Now this is an old tight dude. I'm not expecting, him to go crazy, but you never know. Sometimes you put a weird sizing out there and it sets somebody off. So I decide to, I make it 21K. He quickly calls. I'm like, okay, sweet. Turn is the 6 of spades. He checks. Now I bet big because now I'm like, okay, well, he called once. Let me see what I can get out of this guy. Now the pot is about, after he called the flop, the pot is about 100,000. I bet 76,000. Again, he quickly calls. The river's the 9 of clubs. Now, again, the board was queen 10-3, 2 clubs. Turn is the 6 of spades. The river's the 9 of clubs. Pretty much the worst card in the deck for me, right? It completes the obvious straight, and it completes the obvious flush. He checks. Question really is, and I ask you guys at home, do I bet? Should I be betting this? Okay? And let's get to Brian Rast's answer for this particular one. He says, seems like we have to check river after sizing it pretty large on the turn, 76K into 110-ish. He is restricted to likely good draws or good hands. Not sure if he folds middle pair, but he might. And if he didn't, I can't imagine him calling middle pair on the river. We're blocking top pair big time, and river completes more draws than any other possible river card. I think betting ace-ace, especially ace-ace of clubs, is way better than queens here, actually. Even though aces are not as strong as queens from an absolute value, it's a better value bet because our opponent's going to have more queens in his range. Blocking top pair is terrible because top pair is the start of the range of hands that we can expect to get called on rivers. And that's the truth. If you have aces, your opponent's going to occasionally have king, queen, queen, jack, and those are hands we can get value from. But when we have top set, we've got to think, and that's the whole thing. When we're sizing our bets, we have to size our bets based on what we think our opponent has. And in this particular spot, it's just a question of, can I get value? I don't think, what hand does my opponent have? Maybe ace 10 that he called 2 streets with? Is he really going to call another 125,000 on the river? Now, in a cash game, maybe you can go for thin value because you only have to be right 50% of the time to make it worthwhile. But in a tournament, lost chips hurt you more than gain chips help you. Okay? You cannot easily you can't reach in your pocket and just rebuy. So I actually decided to check that back. I just thought, now, I think I probably bet a non-club 9. I think I might bet a small club, but I don't think I can bet exactly the 9 of clubs. So I decided to check that back, and my top set was good. He just said he had 1 pair. So I was good. Then I had a question. So this is something I've been working on in my game and something that we've seen a lot of players do. Calling out of the big blind in a tournament is very different than in a cash game. Now, I defend my big blind fairly wide in cash games, but you don't want to do it stupidly wide because the pot's just not laying you that good a price. If you're playing 5-10, just for example, there's $15 in the pot, right? If somebody makes it 35, right, there's now 35, 45, 50 in the pot, you're calling 25 to win 50. You're generally getting 2 to 1 to win. You're generally getting 2 to 1 when you call raises out of the big blind in a cash game, which is okay, but you now have to play the hand out of position. And depending on who you're playing against and what position you're in and what position they raised from, you don't want to be that wide. But in the tournament, it's much different. Number one, the sizing pre-flop tends to be much smaller. Remember, I said 5-10. Average raise size in a 5-10 game might be $35, which is 3.5x. Now, if somebody was making it 3.5 or 4x in a tournament, I'd probably adjust what I was defending the big blind with. But a lot of players are raising it 2x, 2.2x, 2.5x. So for the same reason, let's just say we'll use the 5-10 example. If somebody in a tournament, somebody is making it 25 in a 5-10 game, right? So now there's still the same 25, 35, 40 in the pot, but it's only 15 for me to call, right? So I am basically getting 3 to 1 right there, and that's before the antes get involved. When you put the antes in there, which usually equals another big blind, you're usually getting 4 or even 4.5 to 1 to call. So you should be calling fairly wide, and that's something that we've seen a lot of good poker players do over the past few years. The adjustment that a lot of good players make is they are defending their big blind fairly wide. So that brings me to this hand here. I said to him, I said, are you defending King 5 offsuit in the big blind to a 2.3x raise from the hijack, about 30 big blinds deep? And then I said, followed up, said, and then what's the play on an ace deuce 4 double spade flop? I have the king of spades. So Rask's notes were, yes, I think King 5 can be called or 3-bet there. And I considered 3-betting. The player that raised in this particular spot was brand new to the table and I had no read on him. So now I could have used that as saying like, well, this guy had no read on me either. But without trying to sound arrogant, I think sometimes a lot of players have a perception of me because they know who I am before they even sit down at the table. And unfortunately, I didn't know, not only did I know nothing about this particular player, but I also didn't know what his perception of me might be. But he says here, so yes, I think King 5 off can be called or 3-bet there. I think at 30 big blinds at that spot, some of the weak King X offs can make good light 3-bets. He said, obviously, don't overdo it. They have blocker value, and at this stack depth, you should generally be very polar. Pick large sizing that forces stack leverage. So what he means by that is, if somebody makes it 2.3x, and I go like 8.5x, 9x, it becomes very, very difficult because of our stack depth for my opponent to just call me. So he's in a situation where he kind of has to either 4-bet shove or fold. And what you end up basically doing is you put him on the brink. You leverage 9 of your big blinds against his entire stack, against 30 big blinds. Because, you might be doing that with King 5 off. Again, you're going to be very polar here. You might be doing that with King 5 off, but you're also doing that with aces and kings and ace-king suited and hands that you are very happy to get it in with. So he said, that said, calling is fine and standard. He said on an ace-deuce-4 double spade flop, I would 100% check and call a bet. And that's what I did. Now, the problem with what I did there, so I check-called. The turn was an ace. And I checked again, and my opponent double-barreled this. And this is probably something that I need to work with on tournaments because it was kind of weird. Now the stack size was just such that, so I called 2.3x pre, which was only 1.3x for me. So I'm down to like 28.5 bigs. My opponent puts a C-bet out there of maybe, 4x. Now I'm down to like 24 bigs, 24x. And now on the turn, he bets another, say, 7. So now he's leveraging my stack. And it put me in a really tough spot. And I ended up folding the turn. Even though I know my opponent basically has trip aces, a full house, or nothing. But it's the question of, okay, but am I going to check call with king high down the entire time? Am I going to check raise the turn? What's the play? You know what I mean? A pretty an awkward spot, especially because of the stack sizes, and something that I need to work on in my tournament game. Something that I obviously don't have a ton of experience with, and something that I want to continue to work on. Anyway, that was it. Those were really the spots that I thought were somewhat interesting, and I wanted to go over with Rast, and I was able to. I want to thank you all for joining us, by the way. Who's in the chat? Let's see. It's Grimsrud. Or Grimsrud. What's up, man? Says, hey, Tuchman. Richard Carr. What's up, my buddy? Craig Welko. Good to see you, buddy. Craig Welko says, I don't think check back is bad. I think you're probably referring to top set with queens. Yeah, it's probably not awful. I feel like it's definitely not terrible with our stack size. And I think if you're playing against somebody who's a little bit more bluffy, like if you just give them a little bit of rope, they'll hang themselves, I'm probably more apt to check back. But I think against an older, tighter guy, I don't mind betting there just because it's going to be difficult for you. Like, you have top set here. I mean, unless an ace or a king come off, there just aren't that many cards. Now, let's say you have pocket nines and the flop comes out 9-3 deuce or 9-6 deuce. I'm probably a little bit more apt to check that one. Not just because I'm less scared of, my opponent have some random straight draw that's going to beat me, but also just because there are more random overcards that can come out and help my opponent. There are also some more cards that can come off and give my opponent like a really good draw. With the Queen 10-3, I feel like if my opponent has a gut shot, he's probably going to take one off. I feel like if he's got a club draw, he's going to take one off. And if a card does come off that gives him a straight draw, he probably already has a pair or a gut shot, and he's not going to go anywhere anyway to one bet. But anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. I'm trying to think if there's anything else going on. Like I said, that's pretty much going to do it for us. Again, I'm going to be in Barcelona next week for the 888 Live. Really hope you guys join us. Let me know that you're watching. I will, as always, do the non-shout-out shout-out. I'm doing commentary with Jesse Sylvia. Looking forward to that. Tonka is busy playing scoops, so he is not going to be in Barcelona with us. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So do me a favor and join us. As I mentioned earlier, Stone's Live Poker is going on right now. You can join. Bart is playing PLO 8 tonight. So that should be fun. You can actually watch him on that. I want to thank Justin Kuraitis for joining us. And that's, I think that's going to do it for us here. Unless somebody's going to call in and ask questions, that will do it. I'm going to leave you with a little Martha Wainwright. Once again, guys, CrushLivePoker.com, the first and only site out there specifically for live poker. You get 1 month free. 1 month free using the code DTA405. We are here each and every Wednesday. I am here next Wednesday with Tommy Angelo, mental game coach, will be joining me next Wednesday. So if you have any mental game questions for me, shoot away. You can always contact me either on Twitter at TuchOnSports. You can join us in the Crush Live Poker Slack. You can send me an email, davidt@crushlivepoker.com. Or, of course, send me a direct message on the forums at crushlivepoker.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night and goodbye. I'm going to leave you with Bloody Motherfucking Asshole by Martha Wainwright. Good night, guys. I love you all. Just found out the Penguins won 2-0. So Greg Mueller and I, we chopped our bet. Penguins are going to run over Ottawa. That's not even going to be close. Carlson on Ottawa is really good, but I don't think Ottawa has a chance. Michael C. Poker says, what's your best casino to go in San Diego? Dude, I don't know San Diego very well. Like, I play in LA. If I go to San Diego, I'm going to the beach and I'm drinking. Tran says, what about the Colossus? Will you do anything on that? I'm not playing it, but we're probably going to be doing commentary on it. I am at the World Series in 20 short days. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.